Welcome to Footprints in the Market. Today we are joined by Dennis Algreen. So if you've been to any of the SBC events, you will definitely know who Dennis is. He's a man that needs no introduction. So thank you so much for appearing on Footprints in the Market, Dennis.
Thank you very much for having me.
So what I wanted to do is I want to definitely touch a lot on the SBC Lisbon event later on because there just seems to be so much going on. But I think to kick things off, obviously you've been at SBC for I don't know, but since 2016. But I just kind of wanted to get a bit more info and what attracted you to the iGaming space in the first place and a little bit about your journey.
Sure. You're absolutely correct. Bang on 2016. Actually, in August 2016, I joined
Oh,
SBC. Still working remotely for the first couple of months, I think, out of Denmark. I was in Copenhagen at the time. Um, I wasn't, so I'll be honest and say that there wasn't necessarily an attraction with the gaming space at the time, but rather an opportunity for me to, I guess, return to my original passion of marketing. I I went to university with Rasmus in Denmark,
oh, okay.
and after university we'd gone our different paths. I was doing sales for a software platform company in Copenhagen, and Raz was kind of starting to build his own thing while still working for, I think, every Matrix at the time, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, and then we started talking. He was building his own thing and wanted somebody he could trust to come and help build the marketing for that. And I kind of really wanted to give this a shot. It was a unique opportunity, come to London, a bit of an adventure. So I jumped at that opportunity and joined back in 2016. What was then a relatively small company. I think there was 9 of us in total in a relatively small office in Fulham. Um, and then it's just been it's blown up since then.
Yeah.
It's been a very, very exciting journey.
You're listening to Footprints in the Market, the marketing playbook for iGaming. Expect unfiltered insight from market leaders on their industry experience, real-life case studies, pitfalls to avoid, and actionable takeaways for practical growth of your brand. Footprints in the Market is brought to you by Digital Footprints, your strategic marketing partner and safest bet in iGaming.
I think I remember when I first started in the iGaming space, and it was around about the same time. And back then, there wasn't as much competition within that event space. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now, it does feel as if every single week you could fill your calendar with some sort of event. But as you've kind of said, SBC's just grown exponentially. It's amazing. What do you think's been the driver behind that? Is it strategy, operations, marketing? How do you think it's got from that office of 9 people to where it is just now?
I mean, it's a combination of things, like most things are. I mean, strategy is definitely part of that. We took especially around when the US market opened up, and also around COVID, we took a rather different approach to those things than our immediate competitors. We were very quick to jump on the opportunity around the North American and the US market, and was able to launch what was the first online betting event in the country, and also the second biggest one there's ever been, and the only biggest one that was dedicated to online. We even produced that year. We even produced the online gambling content for G2E upon request. So we immediately kind of jumped on that and got involved. And then, and COVID, of course, we took a different strategy. Most events companies, due to, I mean, you can't hold events, you don't have much of a business, and most had to furlough or lay off 75% of their workforce. I think we laid off or furloughed 2 people.
Okay.
Everybody else remained, agreed with the company to take temporary pay cuts to make everything work. And then we did 14 online events in 12 months. Um, and I should say as well, by the way, that once we got on the other side, the company was kind enough to pay the salary cuts back to everyone as well. So that ended up being a big success because essentially it meant that we could maintain our readiness and kind of leapfrog off the end of COVID, which is also where SBC Summit started, right? It was meant to go live in 2020, then got cancelled and went online, and then 2021 we managed to launch it in Barcelona at the time. At a very late stage with still travel bans and everything. I think what we saw there was that we were able to build some momentum because everybody was really excited to get back to personal in-person events, right? We've been cooped up, all of us, for like a year and a half. So I think we got like 2,200 delegates to Barcelona within 2 months of actual marketing, being able to market the event. So that was kind of the success ramp for that one, if you will.
It sounds as well, let's see what you're saying about COVID and like the team like agreeing to take like kind of pay cuts and not be furloughed and all work together. It seems as if like you've got a really decent culture there, which I think always helps when it kind of comes to growing that and even the marketing.
Yeah, it's a collective attitude, I guess, around that we're in this together, and I will say one of the things I've learned from being in the events industry, at least, is how much it builds bonds when you're in the trenches together,
Yeah.
because it really builds up for crunch time, and then everybody just has to be there, be present, pitch in with everything, no matter what your actual job description or function might be. We're all there to try and make the events work and give the audience and the sponsors and exhibitors and everybody the best possible experience, right? So I think that attitude flows through it. And there's also a level, and that's, I guess, the other aspect of the success is just a sheer level of ambition and not being willing to accept that, oh, there isn't space for this in the market or wherever. Instead, create what we think are some of the best quality events that are being put on. I think the general experience of an SBC event is something I'm quite proud of because it is usually very enjoyable to participate in.
I think just talking about ambition, that is definitely going to bring me on to Lisbon. So obviously Lisbon's, well, I think by the time this will be released, it'll maybe like be a week or two away. It's definitely one of the events that we've had on our calendar. We were there last year, but this year it sounds as if it's going to be like bigger than ever. And I think definitely a big pull from our end. I know there's like so much going on. Was like the big opener that you've got with that Legends charity game. Can you tell us a little bit more behind that? I think we're going to get tickets. We'll definitely be there, but it sounds like quite an emotive opener, if that makes sense, and less traditional, but I think that works, and I think it links sport with iGaming really, really well, where there is so much crossover.
Absolutely. This is a passionate project for us. It's a passion project for our CEO and founder, Raz. To try and build something that adds both a bit of flair and experience and pizzazz to the whole week, but also connects us a bit more with the local communities in and around Lisbon and Portugal. It connects us more with some of the kind of philanthropic attitudes of the industry and initiatives within the industry. And I don't think there is anything that the industry, at least sports betting, is more connected to than football, right? It kind of makes sense. It has a power to kind of collect people and bring people together with a common kind of purpose. In this case, the purpose is to both put on an extravagant experience, something lovely that kind of kicks off the week. It's a great opportunity for companies to kind of tap into that, get some hospitality packages and host some of their clients for what is bound to be a spectacular experience. Not only is it at one of the big stadiums, the unique thing here is we actually don't know which of the two stadiums yet.
Okay.
The draw for the Champions League was only last night. I haven't actually seen the results, but that is the decider for which of the Sporting and Benfica stadiums we can organize is at. But working with the charities, there are 4 fantastic charities that are supporting people that, you know, there's a lot of turmoil in the world these days, and unfortunately, that conflict causes a lot of pain and suffering for a lot of families. And these are kind of joint charities that all support that purpose.
I think as well, I noticed already that you guys have got like a few like really, really big sponsors on board for it. And I think that part of that is because they see like the thought process behind it. They see like that emotive part behind it. And it's not just that sort of like CSR checkbox, if that makes sense. And they're actually trying to support something that's good rather than just kind of like, ticking off their charity kind of given for that year.
Yeah, and it is something where, I mean, if you're supporting this and that includes some sort of package, then the supporters are getting something out of it as well that they could kind of do a little bit more with than just a photo or whatever we've donated to this. It adds a bit more, yeah, context to it.
Definitely. Just kind of going to that sponsorship element of it. I think obviously when you're hosting these big events, there's got to be like that sort of a balance, right? When you've kind of got attendance and sponsorship when it comes to like reputation management, making sure that you're giving the sponsors what they want, but then you're not like, diluting the events a little bit. How do you create that balance between, monetizing the events, but still making sure it's exactly what you need to pull off for the audience and delegate side of things?
Well, the way to do it is, of course, that yes, these has to work commercially. From our perspective, it's our livelihood, right? And we have 133 team members now that need salaries. So sure, but it is about maintaining that integrity and thinking about what is it how are you doing those sponsorships? Like, for instance, what are you allowing people to present on stage? How does that impact the perception of the conference content? And we're very vigorous about saying, well, we're not here to just present product pitches. It doesn't work for the sponsor either, by the way. It's a bad idea.
Yeah.
So we can advise with the experience we've got. We can advise people to make sure that there is substance for the audience there, because if there's substance for the audience there, the response is also much more likely to be positive, right? And then just making sure that you keep both sides in mind when you're building out the event, right? Yes, we want sponsorship opportunities, but we also really want to make sure that we're creating this as an experience. We've not gone with the tagline, the greatest show in gaming, for no reason, right? We've gone with that because we think we can create something that is a bit more a spectacle and a bit more of an actual, experience. Yes, there's an expo, and the expo is massive and exciting, and there's so much going on. Yes, there's a conference, but we also make sure that there are little niche group meetups for specific groups and individuals and interests within the industry. We have tech academies where we're trying to build in that people can learn a lot, not just about what goes on within the industry, but also take lessons from outside of it, right? And I think that it makes up a whole package where, yes, the commercial side is an aspect, but more so than anything else, we also are aware, and we've had a lot of years to learn this now, that the commercial side only works if you create an experience that people will want to come back to no matter what, right?
I think that's interesting what you were saying about, as well learning like from without, like out with the space. So you guys have brought in like amazing keynotes like Tony Hawk and stuff like that. And I think that's something that you do maybe really well and sets apart a little bit. Is that the strategy behind that? Because you think that that adds something a little bit special and maybe not something that, compares with another events in the space are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you mentioned it earlier, and I think you're right. There's a very, very congested calendar of different events that pertain to the industry somehow these days. So that also means that you will see a certain element of kind of repeat lineups of speakers and experts, and because as long as you're building all of that within the industry, we also have to face that the industry is not that big, right? If you want the top leaders, there's only so many of them, and then you will keep hearing some of the same things. And we want to make sure that we bring something new to the table. And sometimes something new then comes from lessons and insights from outside the industry, right? That can be, as we did last year, Tony Hawk or Tim Berners-Lee, bringing entirely different perspectives on entrepreneurial branding, the whole web development thing that Tim Berners-Lee, of course, was pretty much the founder of the World Wide Web. And this year we're bringing in Gary Vaynerchuk and Randy Zuckerberg. Again, a very unique, different perspectives from a very kind of tech pioneer and kind of marketing pioneer point of view. And I think those are some of the themes that you'll see flow through this year's event is tech, right? And by tech, it's everything from blockchain, crypto, to AI, Web 3.0, all of that is kind of covered within niche elements of the agenda. And that's important for us.
Footprints in the Market is sponsored by BetComply because in iGaming, compliance isn't just a tick box exercise. From new market entry to ever-changing regulations, BetComply keeps you one step ahead. Don't risk it, own it. Head to betcomply.com and take control of your compliance today.
I think you've hit the nail on the head because it's strange because whenever like anybody out with iGaming asks me, about that and about the culture, I always say it's like one of the biggest industries, but also one of the smallest at the same time. So I think that like on the circuit and on the speaking circuit and on the attendance circuit, I think like you're right, there can be like a cannibalization a little bit. And I think that concept of learning from other industries and learning from these people is definitely kind of what makes you guys like stand out as well.
Of course, I think
From
the
sorry, go ahead.
legal and regulatory framework and restrictions we always have to think about in this industry also means that there is a constant necessity to not just be at the forefront, but try to be ahead on developments, right? Technology is just one of the tools, but it's definitely a major one that can help us support player protection. It can help us adhere to the regulatory restrictions while still having solid products for the users, right? I think that's pivotal.
In terms of looking ahead, like see from like a marketing perspective, obviously you've been doing this for a long time. What's been the biggest shift you've seen in terms of how the iGaming events are being marketed to the consumer? Or has there been? Or do you think that there hasn't been much change? What's your kind of thought process on that?
No, I think there has, of course, been changes. I think especially in the digital marketing front, that aspect and how we make use of social media and such. I think one of the things is, however, I think is quite interesting is that there is a development, but it's still founded on some of the same principles, at least the way we approach it. A lot of our marketing is community-based marketing. It's just that we now make use of the online communities to strengthen that, right? That includes our own employees as stakeholders. It includes our speakers as stakeholders, our sponsors and exhibitors, and all the attendees. The more you can activate them, the better. And that just happens in a different way. It's still technically word of mouth. It's just a much more mass digitalized word of mouth, if you will.
Yeah. And if you look out, like maybe, I don't know, like the next 3 to 5 years, what do you think the biggest evolution you see with not just the marketing of these events, but the events themselves? Do you see any big changes there? I know you just talked a little bit about like, regulatory changes and things like that. How do you see that evolving?
It's an interesting aspect. I think the biggest change I've seen in the events is just that how much outside of the core you sometimes have to, or people will want to infuse into these, right? But I also like with most things, this ends up being a bit of a cyclic nature to it. I think what's happening at the moment, for instance, is that focus seems to be veering quite a lot back to the core product. And one of the biggest things that we've discussed and want to ensure for an event in Lisbon is while we have all this pizzazz that goes on,
Yeah.
there's been a lot of hours and a lot of effort being spent on little things like what are the travel options and transport options for people? How convenient can we make that? How convenient and well can we map out the flow through the event of traffic? Where are people going? Where do they want to go? So the general user experience is really at the core at the moment, and I think that's something we've seen with other events as well. When that's done well, it helps the overall perception and the overall experience for people. Um, it's little things, right? It really is. Lisbon, for instance, we learned last year is not an easy city to get around in a cab or an Uber because rush hour traffic is horrendous. So how can we make sure that people understand and have an easy way to use the public transport means because they're going to be more convenient? And we've also set in shuttle buses. So 10 of our hotels, the official partner hotels, will have shuttle buses every hour or twice an hour, back and forth between the venue and the hotels. Right, just create convenience for the audience. I think that's the biggest development I've seen tendency at the moment. But again, that usually then shifts within a couple of years, and then it takes it in a new direction, and then usually cycles back to something like return to the core, uh, if you will.
You know, I think what I kind of wanted to do as well, Dennis, if it's okay with you, like we've kind of got new marketers that are hopefully going to be listening to this podcast. It was kind of created for people as well who are like new to the industry because, as you say, it's like small but big at the same time, and it can be like a difficult one to break into. And I think what we see is we look a lot at businesses like SBC and they're like aspirational, you know, for people. And there's a lot of like blue chip iGaming companies with it there. But I wanted to see if there's been any specific like challenges within your career and specifically within SBC from that event and marketing perspective that you could kind of like share with them, or like any maybe even mistakes that have been made that you've kind of like really learned from. It kind of, you know, gives them a little bit of insight that even when we're up here, you know, there's still been things that have happened. There's still been stuff that we've had to fix.
Yeah, I think I think one of the biggest lessons, at least on our end, is that when you're trying to create a unique proposition for your products and you and your company, it can get really, really easy to get too obsessed about other successful competitors.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to then lean into, oh, well, what they're doing is successful, so I will do something similar. I think it's very, very important for every single company and every marketer to think about maintaining your unique identity, your unique selling point. It's something we talk about a lot at SBC because while obviously our events have now scaled up to a scale where they are compared with ICE and G2E and such, the core of how we execute it, and especially the core of how people engage with us and how we engage with them, I think is unique and is a lot different. That is one of our kind of unique selling points and kind of our unique identity as a company. And we're very, very protective and something we keep trying to reinforce rather than lose, even as we grow. Because growth, to some extent and at some level, will hit a level where it becomes what I would refer to as corporate, right? It starts getting corporate. And that is one of the biggest lessons I think we've learned, is that taking that final step between doing things as a much smaller company would do to having to do things that have a kind of that work better for a much larger scale can be a tricky kind of transition, and it can take a while. And during that while, it can feel quite chaotic. Because you're still in the habit of doing things and all the processes are set up for something that is a lot smaller, essentially. So that's something that we've had to learn a lesson about. That final step and transition to support the ambition is necessary, but it's also tricky to do, and it will be quite challenging and chaotic.
Footprints in the Market is brought to you by Digital Footprints, your strategic marketing partner and safest bet in iGaming. Make your mark and work with us to drive growth and innovation for your iGaming business.
Has there been any advice that anybody's kind of like given you like within your time that you think that was an amazing piece of advice? I need to share that.
I mean, I've had many advice over the years, and a lot of it good.
Some of it not.
I don't know if there's a specific advice I can kind of I can highlight, but I think look, we've always had many conversations, and I've always believed that curiosity is the key to not stand still, right? And I think that's one of the things we've definitely not done at SBC. We've never really stood still, because we've always been willing to ask the questions and kind of be curious about what if, and then also, uh, I think maybe not a single piece of advice, but a collective of what I've drawn from some of the advice I've had is essentially the only way sometimes that you can really test something out and kind of be curious about it is jump in
Yeah,
head first, right?
yeah.
And we've done that multiple times. Not every single time has been successful. We've sometimes, figured out, okay, that was not the approach. Fine, right? Then you learn the lesson. And I think that's the most important thing is then learn at least from those. Be willing to make mistakes and then make sure you learn from them. I think that's the core of it.
I think that's good life advice as well.
It probably is as much applicable to life in general as it is to career and events. Yeah.
That's just We're just having therapy sessions at Footprints in the Market. I'm just getting advice from you all. It's brilliant. Well, I know that I'll be in Lisbon in a couple of weeks. I'm definitely looking forward to the conference. Is there anything else you kind of wanted to say about that while we're here that people might not have known yet, or I don't know any hot news that's not been released?
So there is hot news has not been released, but those have unfortunately not been released at this
For a
point.
good reason.
I would say that I would advise everybody to make sure that they don't miss this one. There is enough going on, and for those that are coming, I would then advise them to also take a closer look at the schedule on the website and everything that's going on, because it's very, very important to come into an event of this scale with a pretty decent plan, right?
Yeah,
Because if you come in blank, you're gonna lose kind of track at some point. And I know because it's easy for even us to sometimes lose track of everything that's going on. That would be my just for maximum value, because there is a lot of value to be had here, right? Explore the agenda, explore the schedule, make sure you come in with a plan. The official
I
app
think you're right.
has an opportunity to kind of build that plan for yourself as well.
I think that's really good advice. I think that's a mistake that I'd made back in the beginning, because I think also like everything going on around you is always so exciting that it can also be easy to actually, like, if you're a delegate, take away from the fact that there is actually all of these like educational pieces around you that you should really block into your calendar. Um so yeah, no, I think that's amazing advice. So I just wanted to say, Dennis, thank you so much for taking the time to come on today. We really, really do appreciate it. And yeah, it's been a blast. Thank you.
Yeah. Very good time. Thank you very much, Sharon, and what a pleasure to talk to you, for sure.